Welcome, and thank you for joining me on this gentle journey back to a time when the world was torn by conflict, yet found solace in the softest of companions. Tonight, we turn our attention to a small hero whose courage sprang not from bearing arms, but from whiskers, paws, and an uncanny sense of duty. Imagine yourself seated in a quiet corner of history. No hurry, no urgency, only the steady rhythm of a story unfolding like a lullaby. Over the next 2 hours, we will explore the remarkable bond forged between soldiers and cats amid the mud and steel of the trenches. We begin by immersing ourselves in the daily life of a trench cat, moving slowly through the textures, sounds, and scents that shaped its world. We will witness how a simple act chasing a rat, curling up on a weary lap, became an act of valor. As we proceed, allow your breathing to settle. Let each phrase guide you deeper into the past, each image painting a soft yet vivid portrait. There is no need to rush. You may drift in and out as sleep finds you. Our tale tonight centers on Simon of the Amethyst, but first, let us step quietly into the labyrinth of trenches and see the world through feline eyes. Imagine yourself crouched low in a narrow, winding trench, the walls rising on either side like the walls of a labyrinth. The air is cool and damp, carrying the scent of earth turned over in haste, mingled with the faint, ever-present trace of smoke from distant bombardments. Close your eyes for a moment and breathe in. The dampness clings to your coat, every inhale rich with the aroma of fresh, wet soil. Now, see beside you a small figure slight in build, but poised with quiet confidence. This is your trench cat. Its coat, mottled gray and brown, blends seamlessly with the pinched shadows. Listen. Soft paw steps on packed dirt, a whisper of movement as it weaves along the sandbag parapet. Its ears, tall and alert, pivot at the faintest rustle, the telltale scuttling of a rat in the wall's crevices. Rats were more than an annoyance. They threatened the meager rations and carried disease that could sweep through a dugout faster than any shell. But your cat, born or adopted from a nearby barn, had become the first and last line of defense. Each night, it would slip into the narrow galleries, those low-ceiling passages behind the front line, squeezing through gaps just wide enough for its lean frame. It moved with purpose, guided by instinct, sinuous and deliberate, nose twitching as it detected the faintest stirrings. Picture it pausing, body low, tail curling around its paws like a soft question mark. The moment the rat emerged, long tail flicking, the cat would launch in a graceful arc, paws barely making a sound on the hard-packed floor. The hunt never felt cruel. Rather, it was a necessary vigilance. Each successful chase meant bread saved, a soldier's meal spared. Between dusk and dawn, you and your comrades would often find the cat perched on a wooden crate, eyes half closed as it surveyed its domain. In those quiet hours, when artillery fire felt distant and time slowed to the drip of a leaking pipe, you might reach out and stroke its back. Feel the gentle rise and fall of its breathing, the soft warmth of its body pressed against your palm. In that moment, the cat was more than a hunter. It was a living lullaby, its rhythmic purrs weaving a fragile thread of calm through frayed nerves. During daylight raids, the trenches transformed into a hive of nervous energy. Soldiers prepared rifles, checked ammunition, exchanged tense whispers. Yet somewhere in the bustle, the cat would pause beside a tunneler uncovering a new gallery, or beside a stretcher bearing wounded men. Its presence offered more than practical service. It was a reminder of home, of hearth and safety, worlds away from the mud and gun metal. Over the course of World War I alone, hundreds of thousands of cats, some estimates say over 500,000, were intentionally brought to the front lines. Military planners understood what the men did instinctively, that animals could bolster morale, quiet anxiety, and even stave off the creeping despair of endless days in the dark. A cat's simple curiosity, peering into a soldier's helmet, batting at a discarded scrap of cloth, could prompt a smile, a moment's respite from fear. And yet, life in the trench was never simple. Rain turned pathways to muck. Shells rattled overhead like distant thunder. Disease lurked in every corner trench foot. Dysentery, influenza. Through it all, your cat persisted. Its coat grew matted, its paws scarred from sharp stones. But still, each morning it rose, shook itself free of dew and gloom, and resumed its silent patrol. Imagine now the soft thud of boots receding as you lean back against a sandbag. The cat settles beside you, tail flicking in contentment. Close your eyes again. In the hush, you hear only the drip of water, the distant creak of wood, and the tender heartbeat of a small companion who refused to abandon its post. In this shared existence of hardship and small comforts, you glimpse the essence of resilience, a lesson etched in every twitch of whiskers. When you next feel tension in your shoulders, remember the cat's steady vigilance. Each segment of its day, hunting, resting, comforting, was a cycle of purpose. And though we tread softly through harsh history, these quiet moments of connection remind us of the power held in gentle acts. As the darkness of night deepened over the Yangtze River in April 1949, imagine the gentle sway of HMS Amethyst, bobbing on the water like a quiet cradle. Close your eyes and feel the subtle motion. The deck beneath your feet rising and falling in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. The air smells faintly of brine, mixed with sharp scent of recycled engine exhaust. Somewhere below, in the dimly lit corridors, a small cat padding softly on metal grating senses the shifting tension aboard ship. This is Simon the cat, whose courage would echo far beyond these gun-metal walls. He first boarded the Amethyst as an unassuming stowaway, drawn by the promise of warmth and scraps from the galley. His coat, a simple tabby pattern streaked with russet, bore no sign of the extraordinary trials ahead. Yet from the moment he set paw on that deck, Simon claimed his place as both sentinel and companion. In the days leading up to the Yangtze incident, the Amethyst steamed cautiously upriver, tasked with transporting diplomatic staff to Nanking. Tension fluttered through the crew like a restless breeze. Each man carried the weight of unspoken worry. Would this mission be peaceful, or would the river's muddy waters hide unseen perils? Simon, unburdened by thought, moved with feline calm from bilge to bow, offering silent reassurance. Then, abruptly, shells whistled through the dusk. Close your eyes again and listen, the staccato rattling of gunfire striking steel, the guttural thump of explosions rolling across the water. Men scrambled to action stations. The ship trembled under each impact. And in the chaos, Simon was caught in the midst of flying fragments. When the smoke cleared, Simon lay among overturned barrels and splintered wood. His right foreleg was wounded shallow but painful, and a streak of crimson ran down his fur. Yet before any man could tend him, the slotted hatches revealed rats emerging from the ship's holds, crawled by spilled rations and the scent of conflict. Here was Simon's crucible. Despite his injury, he rose, limp and determined, and pursued those rats with unwavering focus. Hear his soft yowl as he stalked a rat beneath the broken scuttle. Feel the sharp intake of breath of a thaw. Nearby sailor who, eyes scanning for danger, instead found a small injured cat bowing to duty. In that moment, crewmates realized what the shellfire had not silenced, the spirit of this feline soldier. For days thereafter, Simon's wound was cleansed and bandaged. When you imagine the infirmary, picture the hush of lantern light on white sheets, the tongue of antiseptic in the air, and the rhythmic murmur of voices as sailors offered whispered words of encouragement. Simon, curled in a wicker basket, purred against his gauze-proof, that even in pain, he maintained his role as comforter. News of his bravery spread through the ship and beyond. Commander Cairns, moved by Simon's steadfast service, proposed that this humble cat receive formal recognition. In December of that year, Simon was awarded the Dickin Medal, the animal's Victoria Cross, presented in a quiet ceremony aboard HMS Amethyst. Imagine, if you will, Simon seated on a velvet cushion, metal gleaming against his chest, the soft click of cameras capturing a moment of profound humanity. This award carried deeper meaning than a mere decoration. It acknowledged the significance of empathy in war, the understanding that courage wears many forms. While human heroes were lauded for valor under fire, here was a small creature whose simple acts hunting pests, offering warmth, lifting spirits, were equally vital to survival. His honorary rank of able sea cat placed him not outside the ship's company, but within its very heart. As you listen, let the quiet pride of that acknowledgement settle over you. Picture Simon's journey home, the gentle rocking of lifeboats, the hush of waves beneath as he returned to Britain, forever changed by war and yet resilient. His fame inspired books and paintings, but perhaps the greatest testament lay in the letters from veterans who, years later, still remembered the comfort of a purring cat amid gunmetal and dust. In those letters, a recurring phrase emerges. When all else failed, Simon reminded us of home. Close your eyes and let that thought drift through your mind. The soft brush of whiskers against a cheek. Warm anchor in a sea of uncertainty. Even now, long after the guns have fallen silent, Simon's legacy endures as a gentle reminder. Heroism need not roar. Sometimes it purrs softly in the darkest night. Now, as Simon's tale gently recedes into the annals of history, let us turn our attention to a quieter kind of bravery, one woven from intuition, mystery, and an almost otherworldly sensitivity. Imagine yourself once more in a trench or aboard a river gunboat, the world pressed close, every sound amplified, every shadow a question. In these moments of tension, soldiers often spoke of their cats as guardians, not only against vermin, but against danger itself. Picture a fog-blanketed dawn. The world seems hushed, as if holding its breath. You stand at the trench lip, the mud cold against your boots. Beside you, the cat remains still, ears tilted forward, eyes fixed on unseen currents. You feel the dampness settle in your bones. Then, a shiver of movement ripples across the cat's fur. Its tail twitches, brushing against your hand. At that exact moment, before any human senses register, the distant hiss of gas shells rolls across the sky. Mustard gas, with its silent menace, would soon stain trenches with choking fumes. But the cat, with Its keen olfactory system sensed the chemicals in the air hours before alarm bells clanged. Soldiers recalled the moment when their feline companions recoiled, whiskers quivering, voices rising in insistent mews. They watched as cats bolted from their makeshift beds, frantic to reach higher ground, their behavior urging men to don makeshift masks and seek shelter. Imagine that acute contrast, the world asleep in a chilly dawn, unclear and waiting, and a small creature's urgent warning, a guide through unseen peril. Breathe deeply and let that scene rest in your mind. The sensation of crisp air tinged with metallic threat, the trembling fur beneath your fingers, the fragile comfort of feline foresight. Similarly, many veterans recounted uncanny episodes when cats seemed to anticipate incoming bombardment. In one trench diary, a soldier wrote of a cat named Bess, who spent hours staring at the sky's restless gray, her pupils dilated, body taut. Moments later, artillery shells began their descent. Trading silence for thunder, Bess darted back to the trench, leapt onto a soldier's shoulders, and mewed so insistently that he braced himself just in time to avoid the blast's worst peril. While modern science explains that animals can detect barometric pressure shifts and subtle ground tremors, these explanations do little to diminish the sense of wonder. In the thick fog of uncertainty that war brings, every small hint of safety becomes magnified. Let your breathing slow as you picture Thessalines, the cat's soft fur, the tremor in the air before an explosion, the shared understanding that sometimes survival depends on trusting instincts beyond our own. But this belief in the cat's sixth sense extended beyond practical warnings. In the quiet hours between patrols, soldiers wove stories by lamplight tales of cats leading lost men back to camp, their paws treading through murky fields like silent beacons. Some claimed that cats could sense the approach of illness, curling up beside an ailing comrade with such persistence that the man felt warmed and less alone in fever's haze. Though these accounts sit at the border of fact and folklore, they reveal something profound about human nature, our longing to find comfort and meaning in the smallest of interactions. Consider for a moment the trench as both cage and sanctuary. Walls of sandbags sealed you off from the outside world, yet left you exposed to threats unseen. In that suspended place, the cat's behavior became a form of quiet divination. Its twitching whiskers and sudden stillness spoke volumes. You learned to interpret every ear flick and tail flicker as though reading a weathered map of moods and warnings. Imagine again the scent of damp earth, the dull taste of exhaustion on your tongue. A cat appears, emerging from the gloom like a guide. Its eyes, luminous in moonlight, meet yours. It pauses then, turns as if inviting you to follow. You rise unsteadily and trail after it, deeper into the trench's winding paths. Each step becomes a step away from fear, guided by a creature attuned to dangers beyond human ken. And here, in this interspecies partnership, lies a gentle lesson, that in times of hardship, we lean on one another, not only for warmth and companionship, but for insight into a world we cannot fully grasp alone. The cats of the trenches embodied this bond, reminding us that bravery can be quiet, and that trust can grow in the hush between two heartbeats. As dawn's pale light seeps into the trenches, so too does a fragile warmth stir among the weary souls below. Imagine once more the narrow confines, the damp boards underfoot, and the ever-present chill. In these liminal spaces between battle and rest, soldiers found solace in the simplest rituals, passing a flask, sharing a crust of bread, or cradling a small creature in trembling hands. Picture a newly enlisted private, thin and homesick, his uniform stiff with mud. He crouches beside a wooden crate, knees drawn to his chest, eyes distant. Then, softly, he feels something brush against his boot. Looking down, he sees a tiny kitten, no more than weeks old, fur-matted, bright eyes wide. Without hesitation, he scoops the kitten into his jacket, feeling its gentle heartbeat. In that moment, the world narrows to two heartbeats in sync, one small and uncertain, the other heavy with longing. Across the trench line, another scene unfolds. A sergeant, scarred by long months of service, sits alone on a sandbag wall. His rifle rests against his shoulder. His gaze drifts to a patch of sky. A tabby cat leaps up beside him, curling into the hollow of his arm. Listen to the soft rumble of its purr, a steady vibration against cloth and bone. The sergeant closes his eyes, breathes deeply, and for the first time in days, finds his shoulders loosening. These moments, repeated in countless dugouts and on endless marshes, formed invisible threads of comfort. Soldiers wrote home of "my little comrade," of the cat who would not leave my side, and of living reminder that even here, life persists. In the hush between shell bursts, the simple act of stroking soft fur became an anchor, a way to hold on to the values of tenderness and care amid the grinding machinery of war. Consider the ritual of feeding. A small saucer of milk smuggled from the galley, a scrap of fish shared. After the cook's rounds, each morsel offered by a soldier to his feline friend was more than sustenance. It was an affirmation of compassion. The cat, in turn, repaid that kindness with companionship, perching beside a sentry through the long hours of night watch, its eyes glinting like guiding stars in the gloom. Imagine, too, the healing power of purring, a low-frequency vibration scientifically known to soothe and even promote tissue repair. When a cat nestled against a soldier's chest, its soft tremors whispered of safety, of hearth and home. These vibrations, subtle yet persistent, eased trembling nerves, slowed racing thoughts, and offered a balm for wounds that words could not touch. And in the darkest hours, during bombardments that turned earth to pounding percussion, the presence of a cat could steady a man's courage. Veterans recounted clutching fur as shell fire rattled overhead, feeling a silent pledge in every gentle nudge of a head or the comforting press of a warm body. In these tactile connections, the trenches became less a tomb and more a place where human and animal hearts beat together against adversity. As you listen, let your own fingers brush lightly against your palms, imagining the soft weight of that companion in your lap. Feel the steady warmth radiate, the gentle rhythm of a purr echoing in your chest. In this shared comfort, the vast chasm of time narrows, your mind drifts, carried on the ebb and flow of remembrance and release. Through these 4 segments, from the cat's pragmatic role as hunter to Simon's singular heroism, the whispered mysteries of a feline's sixth sense, and finally, the profound bonds of companionship, we've journeyed together into a world both distant and intimately familiar. These stories remind us that courage wears many forms, and that in our darkest hours, solace often comes on tiny paws and in gentle purrs. As our journey through the trenches draws to a close, allow yourself to linger in the soft glow of memory. The world we visited muddy, echoing with distant thunder, yet filled with flickers of warmth, reminds us that even in the bleakest places, small acts of care and companionship can kindle hope. Imagine the last light of day slipping beneath the horizon, the sky turning a muted blue. Somewhere, a cat stretches and settles into a quiet corner, its purr a gentle lullaby against the hush of evening. In that purr, hear the echoes of Simon's unwavering spirit, the murmur of countless feline guardians, and the tender bond that carried soldiers through fear and fatigue. Now, gently shift back to the here and now. Feel the surface beneath you, steady and sure. Let your breath deepen as you carry with you the comfort of soft fur, the quiet vigilance of whiskers, and the serene grace of feline friends who stood watch in the darkness. May these stories ease your mind and cradle you toward rest. Sleep well, carried on a whisper of history and the softest of paws. Good night.